fans, it's your boy Luke back for another course breakdown, this time for the RSM Classic. And this video is going to be a little bit different than usual just because we have two venues this week. We have the Plantation course and the Seaside course that golfers will have to take down. So instead of just covering the Seaside course that they'll see for 3 rounds, we're going to cover both of them. We're going to make sure you know everything you need to, whether you're a golf bettor, whether you're a DFS player, or just watching golf for fun. You're going to get everything you need to know in terms of how this course is going to play. Real quickly, before we hop into this breakdown though, let's touch on last week. Last week we had the Houston Open, obviously. Jason Kokrak breaking through for his 3rd win in just over a year and a half. Somebody I wasn't able to take advantage of in the outright market. Sure wish I was, fired a bet on him or something like that. He was 50-1. Very good value right there. I played him in the DFS side though. I thought he was just a little bit too volatile. We hadn't seen much recent form of late, but oh boy did he turn that around. So congratulations to anyone out there that took a chance on him there and were rewarded handsomely. But this week though, things are going to look a lot different. Memorial Park was a true test of golf. We saw changing conditions from day to day. The course was relatively easy on Thursday to an absolute bloodbath on Sunday. This week though, at the RSM Classic, it's going to be a little bit more consistent. We know how this course plays. We've seen it over 9 years now at this point. It's also a relatively easy golf course. It's a resort style course, more of what we were used to seeing during the swing season. So perhaps it's good to get back to that. We have a little bit more reliable data to go off of. We obviously have shot link data for this golf course as well, at least for the Seaside course, not for Plantation, which will be a good change of things. So looking forward to that. And again, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to cover a complete analysis of both golf courses. We're also going to talk about my key stats for analysis at this golf tournament as well as some of the golf courses I use as comps here. Some of the golf courses you might be able to take some data from, incorporate them into your analysis for this week. So overall, going to let you guys know exactly who should play well this week. So without further delay, let's hop right into it and let's dissect this place. So first off, we're going to cover the Seaside course for this weekend, which is a par 70, 7,005 yards. And this is the course we're going to see for 3 rounds. So golfers will take it on either Thursday or Friday, and those that end up making the cut will play it for the weekend. And this is the course we also have shot link data for. So if we take a look at any of the analysis or advanced metrics over the years, this is the data that we're going to be looking at. And out of the 2 golf courses, this is definitely the more difficult of the 2, but it's not really difficult in general. It's just a little bit more difficult than the very easy Plantation course. It's a little bit more exposed to the elements over here at Seaside. It's more of a links style as well. It's still resort oriented though. So a lot of times when people think of links, they think of a relatively difficult golf course with tons of undulation in the fairways and whatnot. That more applies to the greens. We have some undulating greens. They are extremely large though, like we typically see at resort style golf courses. We're also dealing with extremely large fairways. So driving accuracy tends to be correlated to success here. We run correlation models and whatnot. I've seen that over the data these past 9 years, but driving accuracy doesn't seem very important from a logical sense. We have these large fairways, so perhaps it has more to do with just the shorter hitters in general having some success rather than some of the bombers that miss more fairways from week to week on tour. It's obviously a very short golf course as well. It's just 7,000 yards. So even though it's just a par 70, a lot of the non-bombers, the people that only hit it about 270, 280 off the tee, are still going to be well in play. In terms of a grass type, it's going to be similar between both golf courses. At the Seaside course, we have Bermuda grass all over from tee to green and on the putting surfaces as well. And this is a characteristic of the entire property. So even when you get into some of the native areas, it's still going to be Bermuda grass, which makes it a little bit more tough. If you're not new to the channel, if you've been here for a while, you know that Bermuda grass tends to be the toughest surface to hit out of regardless of the situation. So still doesn't really add that much difficulty here. Let's move over to the Plantation course now. This is a par 72, 7,060 yards, making it exceptionally short because it's not a par 70 anymore, just 55 yards longer. And this is where players are going to have 1 round this weekend. And to be honest with you, that is by far the most important round. This is an extremely scoreable golf course. If you're aggressive at the Plantation course and you have your game, you can take it to 8, 9, even 10 under par. We've seen that over the years. And unfortunately, we don't have the shot link data for it. But looking at some flyovers, taking a look at some of the reviews of the golf course, it becomes extremely apparent that first off, driving distance is a factor at this golf course. There's 4 drivable par 4s. There's also 3 reachable par 5s, 4 if you're a bomber. So there's realistically about 8 eagle chances that you could have on this golf course. So that's why I say it's the most important round that you're going to have. It's the most important golf course as well, in my opinion. So when we take a look at my analysis later on in terms of key stats, instead of weighing it at about 75% to 25%, that would obviously match the usage between the two golf courses. I have it closer to a 65-35, just because you're going to get so much of your scoring done in this single round. I want to weigh it more than I am the Seaside course, and that's how we're going to go ahead and do so. Few differences we have between the Plantation and the Seaside course is, first off, you have a lot more protection from the wind at the Plantation course. Because it's on the Seaside, because we don't have many trees over there, when it gets windy, it becomes a factor. But unfortunately, well, I should say fortunately for the golfers at the Plantation course, that's not so much an issue. We have dense forest surrounding most of the property. So as a result, whenever it gets windy, scores still tend to go relatively low. So if there's going to be any wind on Thursday or Friday, say one of the days is windier than the other, you definitely want to target the golfers that are playing the Plantation course that day. I cannot stress that enough. There will be a huge difference if that ends up being the case. So obviously on Wednesday when we have our live stream for the DFS side of things, make sure to stop on by to see if that's the case. Because if you're betting anybody, you want to make sure that you're targeting that right end of the split. In terms of the fairways, they are just as easy to hit as some of the ones on the Seaside course. Also relatively large greens as well, with similar types of undulation. I guess the key difference between the Seaside and the Plantation course is that all the greens at the Plantation courses are square, which is a little bit strange. We don't see that very often. Typically over on the European side of things, that's a little bit more of common stance, but that is the case over at Plantation course. It's not going to affect play, but definitely something that you'll see on TV and will probably make you think a little bit. The main differences, like I said, is that wind is a little bit more of a factor at the Plantation course. Also, the Plantation course is a little bit further inland. So conditions can be a little bit changing. It can be a little bit more windy over in the Seaside course in general. So something to go ahead and keep in mind. And now for our key stats. We'll start with the Seaside course and our key stats. First off, we have shots gained approach. I'm looking for guys that can control their ball flight a lot better than others. We could be dealing with some windy conditions. It's a little bit too early to be looking into the weather, but year after year, usually for a day or two at this event, it has at least a little bit of impact. And of course, guys that can keep it below that wind are going to have a little bit more success. But moreover, anytime we're doing an analysis of a PGA Tour event, shots gained approach is going to be a staple. It's the most consistent stat from week to week. It's also by far the most correlated to success, pretty much no matter the venue. So not a surprise to see it there at number 1. Perhaps a little bit more surprising is the fact that we have shots gained putting on Bermuda grass at number 2. This is a short golf course, so a lot of the scoring is done with your putting. Off the tee, you're dealing with carrier-sized fairways. It would be almost impossible to miss them if you're hitting an iron off of the tee. So as a result, with this short setup, we're looking for guys that can score, and a lot of that scoring is done with the putter. Bermuda grass also tends to be a polarizing surface as well. You're dealing with a lot of grain changes, and these greens over here at Sea Island are true Bermuda grass. You're dealing with extremely grainy surfaces. You're dealing with surfaces that have a ton of undulation as well. So overall, understanding the intricacies of these surfaces is going to be important. So I'm taking a look at players that historically have performed well on that Bermuda grass. Next up, though, we have driving accuracy, which if we take a look at a correlation model, we take a look at some of the best finishers at this event over the years, driving accuracy is important. It's the most correlated stat to success, which is a little bit surprising to me. Obviously, it being a short golf course, you're able to club down off the tee quite a bit. So some of the longer players, the people that aren't as good with driving accuracy, tend to hit a ton of fairways here. So that's why I thought it was a little bit surprising. But as they say, the numbers don't lie. There is a bunch of water in play. So when players do get aggressive, you are looking for guys that can keep it in play. So perhaps that's why it's popping as much as it is. Next up, though, at the Plantation course, we're really looking for guys who first off have a high birdie or better percentage. Obviously, with scores that are going to be extremely low there, we want guys that can take advantage of that. So for me, I'm looking for guys that have that high birdie or better percentage that are capable of even taking it to an 8 or 9 under par. Next up, we have shots gained off the tee. And rather than just looking at driving accuracy, we're also combining distance into this metric. Because at this golf course, with the 4 potentially drivable par 4s, with the 4 potentially reachable par 5s, you want to make sure that your players are able to leverage that. So that's why it comes in there at number 2. And just like you have at Seaside, also a relatively large amount of water. You have a lot of water around the greens, also off the tee, which can come into play if you don't have your best stuff. But at number 3, not a surprise, shots gained approach, a staple of our analysis. Anytime you need to go low at a golf course, you're going to have to bring the irons as well. And now for our comp courses. Obviously with 2 different venues makes it a little bit more difficult in choosing these, but have 3 good options here for you guys to use for your analysis. First off, we have Spyglass Hill, which is one of the courses they play for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. They have some tricky greens, just like we're going to see at the Plantation course, but similar in the fact that it's a short par 72. There's a ton of scoring there and some drivable par 4s. So at both golf courses, again, even though you're dealing with some super tricky greens, if you have them down, if you're rolling your rock that day, you can take it to a 7, 8, even 9 under par score. So I like that as a comp course for Plantation. Next up, we have Waialae Country Club, which is in Hawaii, obviously, which I think is a great comp for the Seaside course. Obviously in Hawaii, dealing with tropical conditions, windy conditions as well, dealing with a similar length, just over 7,000 yards, also a par 70. So overall, some very similar vibes there. I'd say at Waialae, you're obviously dealing with some elevation change, which makes it a little bit unique there. But aside from that, very similar looks. But overall, I think Mayakoba and El Camaleon, which you saw just 2 weeks ago, isn't a bad comp at all for the entire event. So while it's a par 71, split right between the middle of the par 70 and 72. So perhaps that's a good thing. It gives you a really good combination of holes protected from the wind with dense force, but also those seaside holes where wind becomes a real factor. We saw that at El Camaleon. You really had to be on top of the wind direction as it was even changing from time to time when you had parts that were exposed, parts that were protected from the wind as well. So overall, I think this is a very good comp there. And get plenty of water in play as well. We saw that at both of these venues. You also have extremely large fairways, which we saw at both venues, and extremely large resort style greens. I'm expecting a winning score close to what we saw at El Camaleon. So with so much correlation, with it being so recent, I am putting a ton of stock into those that played El Camaleon, particularly those that played it well, and will also be teeing it up today. So keep that in mind. My best comp course by far. That is all I've got for this week's venue. It'll be a week for the diehards for sure, those that actually look into the statistics, are willing to take down both golf courses, and of course, probably a rough week for those that don't look into it a lot. So I'm excited for this week. I'm excited to take on some DFS contests, some outright bets, and let's make this one a big week, guys. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments what you guys think the winning score this week is going to be. Personally, I've got it at 19 under par. I do think it's going to be a little bit more scoreable this weekend than we've seen in years past as players get more and more experienced here, as the game just gets easier in general with all these technology changes. You're going to see golf tournaments with winning scores that are lower and lower and lower. So I think that trend does continue here this time around. But go ahead and let me know what you guys got down in the comments as well. Throughout the week, we're also going to have our usual allotment of DFS content. We'll have our Draftkings picks coming out a little bit later on tonight. Tomorrow, we'll have our Draftkings value plays, and of course, our fades and sleepers, and our DFS live stream later on in the week. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you also like the video as well. It really helps me out with growing the channel so you guys don't miss anything in the future. Thank you guys for stopping by. As always, you guys have no idea how much the support means here. We have almost 400 subscribers, which is super exciting for me. Getting close to 500, and of course, that milestone 1,000 subscriber mark, which I'm really trying to work towards. That's when we can start monetizing some of the videos here. So overall, really appreciate all of the support as always. So until next time, until the live stream later on in the week, good luck and have a great week, guys.